Hello, everybody. Welcome in. Give me 1 second. I'm going to be sharing this out. Always busy sharing this out. Appreciate you guys for joining in nonetheless. If you guys want to share it out, it's always appreciated. If you guys don't, I understand. Not a problem. Hope you guys have been doing well. It's been a while, right? The last time I saw you guys, actually, I think it was last Tuesday. Last Tuesday. It's been almost a week. Almost a full week now. Got a little mixed up on Friday night. Went to a really good event and had some real thought-provoking discussion with a couple of people, and that just led from one thing to another thing, and accidentally got home super late from that. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But for the moment, just understand, Friday night got tied up. Sunday night, that was my fault as well. Entirely my fault. We made bad plans and wasn't able to make it here until too late. But nonetheless, thank you guys all for joining in tonight. I think I've got everyone shared out in the way that I want to. Actually, let me correct myself. There's a couple people. One more share that I need to do. And we should be good to go. All right, I think we're good to go. So, thank you guys all for joining in. I am Mr. Merca, the Bearded Truth, Jason Lyon. Thank you guys all so much for being here. Pardon the hiatus. Nonetheless, I'm here. Hope you guys are doing well. And my name is Jason Lyon, Mr. Merca, the Bearded Truth. I am your local, neighborhood-friendly liberty advocate. And tonight I've got a good show lined up for you guys. We're going to talk a little bit about the Trump shutdown and everything going on with there. There's a lot of optics that people are missing out on, and a lot of people are really diving down deep into the partisanship, really diving down into their side winning this, and that's all that matters. And so we will, of course, have to break away from the partisanship and really get into the principles of this and figure out who's on the right, who's on the wrong, and that whole ordeal. While we're talking about right and wrong, we're going to talk about New York, because New York has been piquing itself with immorality and disgusting behavior. So we gotta dive into that. And that is both the abortion bill that everyone's been ranting and raving about. There's been a lot of people that just take it for the overview, and they don't really dive down into these bills as we know. So I'm going to dive into that a little bit for you guys and really break that down. So we can have a fundamental understanding of what they're trying to push with that one. We're also going to be talking about an assault weapons ban for 205 firearms. And this is the assault weapons ban of 2019. And this comes from the likes of Senator Dianne Feinstein, Senator Blumenthal, and I'm trying to find the third one. I'm not finding it. Anyways, there's three senators that push this, and a crazy amount of endorsements coming from other Democrats, and the idea that they're not coming for your guns. Yeah, they're coming for your guns. If they're not coming for your guns, they're coming for other people's guns. That's a huge issue. And Patton Oswalt, right, the lefty comedian, he makes it back into the news, and it's for good news. And so whenever we see good things coming out there, we got to make sure that we hit those good things and make sure that we understand what the purpose of being alive and being here on this world and being here, especially in America, what you can do and what good you can do despite the fact that you don't have to agree on everything. So let's get started first. Let's get started first with the government coming back into power. So this is something that I've been dreading. I've been dreading it. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I've been dreading the idea that the government's going to be coming back, and it did. The reason why, right? It's not because I hate the government. It's not because of anything like that. But just purely the idea that if you guys have been following along, we've been sharing a wonderful, beautiful diary, and that was from Elizabeth Ray. And she had a diary, and every day she would add another entry, and they were full of, it was a satire diary that was just full of humor and just lightheartedness. And of course, when the government comes back, that meant that diary ended. So, sad day. I don't have it pulled up. Otherwise, I would be reading it to you guys. That'll be tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, I will make sure I have all that pulled up, and we will read it from start to end there. But Trump came in And despite the fact that his not promise, but his words before the government shutdown even began, saying that he's willing to keep the government shut down for months or years, even years, comes out and says, all right, Democrats, you guys want me to open up the government? You want to talk for 3 weeks? You have the government now for 3 weeks. And he allowed for for Mitch McConnell, who's been playing a good defense for President Trump, to allow a bill to come through and able to open up the government for 3 weeks. So the government's back up and running. We're seeing it really coming out there, and TSA is touching the mammies again. The IRS is in full swing of still continuing to steal your money, and all the government agencies are back in full force. So everyone's happy, everyone's joyous. We realize that government employees, federal employees that were furloughed, that were taken out, they had a nice 35-day vacation. They're back at work again. They're upset that the government's back too, and as a result, there's a big optic that everyone is focusing on, and this is the partisanship. This is the stuff that I really wanted to dive into. Democrats have said since Trump was elected that they will never support a wall. They will never support the wall. They will do whatever it takes to stand in that way, and they've been very vigilant on that stance. They've always been standing against this. And with Trump saying, you guys have 3 weeks or I'll enact the wall myself, via executive order, they have no reason. They have no reason to fold on their virtues, on their values. And so we're going to see Democrats continue to not fold on this. We're going to see them to stand staunchly. And optic-wise, they're hitting the right mark for their people, right? They're hitting the right thing for their people because they told them, we are not going to fold on this. We are not going to give up on this. And sure enough, that's what they're doing. They're standing on it. And so Trump gave them an easy out. So Trump, as we've been seeing for the past couple weeks, there has been a declaration of national emergency in order for him to justify erecting the wall. If he does this, right, let's go into that side of things, right? His base wins. His base has been an advocate for the wall by any means necessary. They get the win, sure, right? Let's be honest here, right? They get their side. The Democrats get their side. There's a big win there. Where's the loss? Where are we losing out? Well, there's two premises in which we lose out. The first one, and where we have a legislative failure, right? Congress not being able to come together and actually enact a legislation in order to erect the wall. That's kind of a big failure, right? If your legislators are not doing their job, not doing their role, that's an obvious failure. That's clearly. That's one issue. The other issue is the idea that the President of the United States has this authority to be able to do kind of as they see fit, right? To write things and to justify things in their way. This is a big loss, right? This was a huge loss when President Obama was doing this, when he was like, you know what, DACA's now, I've written DACA's a thing. When he went through and forced through bills, right? That wasn't a good thing either. When he forced a shutdown, when he actually vetoed spending bills that were coming to his desk and forcing the shutdown, right? That was an issue there. He's well within his authority to do so, of course. But those were big issues, and now what we're seeing is, and I missed this optic when we were hitting the overview, but President Trump never vetoed any spending bill. The spending bills never made it to President Trump. So anyone blaming Trump for the shutdown missed the entire thing, where Trump never once had a bill on his desk, never once refused a bill. So it's not on the President of the United States, right? It was on Congress. But so now if he is able to just write it in and say that there's a national emergency and say, go use the military, erect this wall and protect our borders, then that's what he's going to do. And so I think that this is another big power play, another big power push for the presidency, for them to have more authority, have more power. I oppose it for obvious reasons, but it's just not coming out right. It's just not coming out in a way that screams, I love a delegation of power to separate entities, balance of powers, and everything else. It really does start looking like we're molding into somewhat of a monarchy, somewhat of a Congress is there to delegate all their powers to the presidency, and the president does kind of as they see fit. And whenever you can't really give away all of that, then Congress is kind of stuck with the football. But there is even further issue, right? When he declares national emergency, here's the other issue, right? And that is that he's going to be using the military. They're going to have to use the eminent domain clause of the Constitution, right? This is constitutional, but there's an issue here. Use the eminent domain clause of the Constitution in order for the federal government to collect up two-thirds of the border from American citizens and companies in order to enact this wall. So when they're taking this, right, and some of those people right across the two-thirds obviously are in favor of the wall, and they're okay with their property being taken, right? If you consent to it, I have no problem with it. It's the people that don't consent. It's the people that want to keep their property and don't want to give it away. When the government comes in and takes it from you, I think that it's hard to argue that it's not theft. And so I think it comes down to a decision, right? Do we act immoral in order to get what we want, or do we try to find ways of making both sides work? And I don't see that coming out, so that's a huge issue there as well. But even with that, right? So we build up the wall. 2019, we have the wall. 2020, 2024, whenever it is, and President Trump is out of office, should he lose to a Democrat? Should he lose to somebody that is on the left? And they decide they're going to tear down this wall. How hard is it to say the national emergency is over? There's no longer a necessity for this wall. It's not difficult at all. They tear down the wall. Now we've wasted the American taxpayer money. There's a huge issue there. What percentage are okay with the government taking the land? I'm not sure what the percentage is. I know that there are people that oppose to it, right? There are people that bought land along the border just because of that. And I wouldn't agree with stealing it from them either way. And so we have to understand that there's a lot of bad optics here. And if you're a Trump person, if you're a person that's in favor of the wall, even if you're not in favor of Trump, if you're in favor of that, this would be a win for you. But if you are a person more of holding the values of a smaller government, of a limited government, of trying to actually fix the problem, fix the wound, instead of trying to just keep putting Band-Aids on it and hoping that the Band-Aids are going to cure the cancer, then it's not going to bode well for us. And so I've been having this discussion with a lot of people, and I'm finding out that we aren't thinking far enough ahead. And because we know that there's an issue. There's an issue there at the southern border, right? We all agree that there's a reason why people are illegally immigrating into this country, whether it's to illegally immigrate, period, like to come here and move here and to get away from their previous country, or if it's to human traffic, if it's to bring drugs, if it's to bring armaments or weapons, whatever it is, there's a bigger issue there. And by just enacting a wall, we aren't solving any of those issues. And I think that that's certainly what we need to fix. Forgotten Man, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for welcoming me back. It's been too long. So I think that certainly we need to have a more developed conversation about all this, and we need to actually get through and fix this. Because building a wall isn't necessarily going to fix this. Free Spirit Press News, welcome in. How are you, ma'am? So we gotta understand this whole entire issue as a whole, and kind of take a step back a little bit and get the bigger picture. While we're talking about that, I do want to see if I can pull up this. Okay, so I wrote this 2 days ago, and I want to get you guys' view on this. Some of these topics we did talk about already, but I'm just going to reread the whole thing in its entirety. What too many people are missing with these border wall debacle is that it's been the long game. Why didn't Trump get the wall when the Republicans had a majority in both House and Senate? Well, it was for two reasons. He didn't have a supermajority, so he'd still need some Democrats to splinter off to get it passed. And the second thing was that the military and many other portions of the government would also be shut down over the wall. So if he would have done this earlier in his presidency, if he would have done it during the first shutdown, right, he would be affecting the military and a litany of other portions of the government. If you guys remember, right, that first government shutdown was a massive portion of the government, but they had actually staggered out the spending to where some things were coming up in December and some things were paid off until September of 2019. And one of those was the was the military. So the military and many other portions of the government would also be shut down over the wall if it wasn't during this period for the budget to be resolved. He waited until only a small portion of the government was shut down by virtue of staggering out how long each portion of the government's budget was scheduled for. It was a good move by the Republicans, but they blinked, and it's hard to spin this as a win for them as the government opens its doors once again. In 3 weeks, no resolution will be made. I got people messaging me and it's getting in my way. No resolution will be made, and President Trump will be forced to declare the national emergency to save face for his base. Using an executive order or national emergency will mean that the Democrat comes into office. They will be able to declare the emergency is over and rescind the executive order, which would allow the wall to be torn down. Live by the president, die by the president. It's a big issue, right? We said this with Obama. We said this with a lot of people, right? I remember throughout the times of President Trump, that was a big line that I kept saying to people, right? Because when President Trump would write away what Obama had written and he would just remove it, it's just like, yeah, you live by the president, you die by the president. You can't expect the president to make something be concrete and to stand the test of time and stand the test of opposing partisan presidents. You can't expect that. It's not logical, and it won't work. It won't function. And I hope that more people are realizing this. Take a step back and understand how it's going. But I'm glad that the government has come back for 3 weeks so that we can see this all come back around. In another 3 weeks, the government will shut down for a couple days. We'll declare the national emergency, and then we'll bring back the government once more. And hopefully, whenever they bring it back, they'll have better bills. And I know that is extremely unlikely. But I'm hoping. I'll be optimistic. I hope you guys will be as well on all of this. Let me see. I had another big article that I wrote. Or not big article, but a big speech that I wrote. I don't even remember what it was about. Oh, that one was about Cuomo. Yep. So, nonetheless, I'm optimistic about this whole thing. I know that there's going to be another big loss coming for some, while we're transitioning from topic to topic, and I want to talk about something that is stupid. It's so insanely off base that she doesn't even realize like what she's doing while she's a representative of New York. Her quote was, "I don't think people who are taking money from pharmaceutical companies should be drafting healthcare legislation. I don't think people who are taking money from oil and gas companies should be drafting climate legislation." Does anybody in this country at all think that pharmaceutical companies or oil and gas companies are not paying taxes? If you think that they're not paying taxes, then maybe her comment would make sense. But the problem is that everyone who works for government is getting paid by these corporations, and so taking her quote to the fullest extent, taking it to the end, she's getting paid by these people. So I agree with her 100% for once. I agree with her 100%. She shouldn't be involved with trying to legislate over these things. Get out of their way. Let them do as they want. Let them do as they want. You're absolutely right with that forgotten man. He said he would pay or sign that one omnibus bill and would never sign another one that large again. I agree. So it's going to the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez thing. She doesn't understand how taxes work. She doesn't understand how money works. She doesn't understand how any of this stuff works. But you just got to believe her because she believes that she's morally right, and that's what's important. But oh man, it's just so funny. It's just so funny whenever you can take her words and be like, "You get paid by them. Stop it. Stop it." So, anyways, we're gonna go on to another stupid lefty. This is Governor Cuomo. Andrew Cuomo from New York, the governor. So we're gonna talk a little bit about what he said, and then we'll get into the abortion bill here in a second. But he said that extreme conservatives who oppose abortion and support gun rights. Oh no, that's just wonky. I get to reading through the first line, and then it just kicks me off the page. So nonetheless, he says that extreme conservatives, those who support gun rights and go against abortion rights, have no have no reason to be in his state. It's now his state as the governor. He owns the entire state. It's all his. There's no governing body and everything else. He says if you're a moderate, you're fine. But if you're one of those radicals and you believe in gun rights and you don't believe in allowing people to kill their unborn because for convenience or whatever it is, then you have no reason to be in his state. And it's just, I wish that the 10th Amendment was adhered to. I wish that we weren't subsidizing New York. I wish that their abortion bill wasn't functioning the way that it was. But I'm gonna read you guys my little spiel that I wrote on this one because it's been shared out by plenty of other pages, and so I'm kind of excited about that. So I wrote, I'd be more okay with them saying this if the federal government wasn't taking from the states and redistributing it to the states than companies within. If we go back to the founding of our nation, each state was supposed to be a separate experiment. New York could be very communistic with their taxes and criticisms of their people, but they wouldn't be able to affect the other states directly. Since the federal government has ignored the 10th Amendment, this is simply not the case any longer. When Cuomo and company decides to pass legislation making abortion easier, by removing criminal punishments for unlawful abortions, enabling more providers to be able to perform abortions, and ignore that when a mother's life could be viewed at risk, the baby could be saved by surgical removal from the mother, saving both lives. They know this means more money will be taken from all Americans, and thus have more money funneled into Planned Parenthood, as the number of abortions will more than likely rise in that state. His comment about gun advocates is grotesquely unconstitutional, but we should understand that men and women who want to control the populace would love to remove any opportunity for them to fight back. And if you need a modern day example, just go ahead and look at France and Venezuela. And as for, he also made a comment that if you're anti-gay, you have no right to be in New York. As for the anti-gay comment, just because you don't agree with someone doesn't mean you get to attack them, smear them, or stand on a holier-than-thou argument. If you're anti-gay, don't sleep with gay people. If you're anti-gay, don't sleep with anti-gay people. But seriously, being anti-gay or anti-choice/lifestyle was never supposed to be an American value. Stop continuing it. Your life is your own, and that should be the only person you should ever try to control. If the governor of New York doesn't want conservatives living around, raise up those taxes. When the New Yorkers flee from New York, leave the desire for big government, taxes, and the idea that people should not be able to protect themselves or the innocent in that God-forsaken land. And I hope, and I'm actually seeing this a lot in South Carolina and Florida, I'm seeing a lot of people leaving away. I believe it's over 100,000 people each year are leaving New York. And I got to say thank you. Thank you for leaving that God-forsaken land. Leaving that land in which there are no values, there are no morals. It is just about the governmental control. It is so disgusting. And it really needs to be addressed, right? California has their people fleeing, and so does New York. Let those states collapse on themselves. If the government wasn't propping these states up by providing subsidies, these states would have already collapsed. And so this is just another idea. This is just another stance that shows that the government should never be violating the 10th Amendment. They should never be subsidizing other states. They should never be working to provide from one state to another state. It's just immoral and it's just wrong. Get that out of my federal government. You would, if we could just advocate an adherence to the Constitution, we would be so much better. Because we would have failed states. I don't want the states to fail because I don't want innocent people hurt, but I also don't want failing states to be a part of my country. I want better ideas to flourish, and that means that we have to let bad ideas fail, right? I don't want any company to fail, but at the same time, I don't want companies that suck to be sticking around. I don't want to see people hurt because of these decisions. And certainly when it comes to that, when it comes to a poorly ran state like California, like Seattle, or like Washington, like New York, let them fail. Let them fail under their tax systems. Connecticut's well on its way as well. Let them fail under their systems of thinking that they can just collect the revenue from others, and that let them learn the lesson that eventually you run out of other people's money. And then you can see states like New Hampshire, where they have an extremely low extremely low tax rate for their people, and they are doing just fine. There are so many better ideas out there. And I mentioned that we would get into the abortion bill from New York. I know that's been a hot spot for a lot of people. And here's what we're seeing. When it comes to that abortion bill, right? So you're seeing a lot of people on the right saying, look, abortions are being legalized up to the moment of birth, right? To the moment that they come through the vaginal canal, or whatever you want to call it, the birthing canal, whatever it is. There is some honesty to that statement. And the easy way that the left has been able to defend this, those pro-choice people. And no, Free Spirit Press is not a troll. No, Free Spirit Press is a great lady. But they immediately jump to the idea of, if you read the actual bill, it says that there's three times in which an abortion is allowed. The first one is before 24 weeks. That's not a change for New York. It's always been before 24 weeks. The second one was if there's no signs of viability. So if the fetus has died already, then that's justifiable to have an abortion. And the third one is if the mother's health is at risk. Now it's a very vague and broad term. And that's where this vagueness is a huge issue, because it doesn't really define the health, right? If they were to say the mother's life is at risk, that would be different than the health is at risk. And so it needs to that would certainly need to be narrowed and be fixed to solve a lot of issues. Another issue that is within it is that they've taken all of the criminal charges for otherwise unlawful abortions. They have taken those and removed those. I want to say it was on like the second page, like line like 32 through 36, I think it was. They actually talk about which crimes are being negated and being taken out, and that's a huge issue, right? If you have an unlawful abortion, right, obviously the law should be to protect that innocent life. And then they also made it easier. They made it more accessible for more people to be able to perform abortions, and that in itself is a huge issue, right? When you have more people that allow it, it makes it easier for people to get abortions, right? It's not about trying to make it easier for abortions, because you guys know me. I've always been I haven't always been pro-life. I've been pro-life since the time that I've been coming on and doing these scopes, and because I understand that the idea that we don't kill people for convenience, right? We don't kill people for convenience, right? It would be convenient for us to go kill homeless people. We don't kill the homeless people. It would be convenient for us to kill the mentally retarded. We don't kill the mentally retarded. It would be convenient for us to kill fetuses that are unwanted, that were created through rape, that were created through whatever it is. It would be convenient, sure, but we don't kill them. And so you don't take a life just because of something else. You don't take a life just because you want to make your life easier. Could you imagine if we took this to the fullest extent? Somebody gets in your way in the road and you just kill them? No, right? I think everyone would agree that that's not a moral way to live, and that's not acceptable. So it's understanding where the pro-life argument comes from. The abortion is always wrong, and so you don't try to make it easier for people to have abortions, and you don't try to enable more people to have these things, right? You want to make it more difficult, if not impossible, for people to get legal abortions. And I understand that people are going to get abortions either way. You can't stop people from doing atrocious things to themselves. And you certainly can't stop people from killing the innocent or killing the defenseless, but we can do everything that we can in order to stop that and prevent that. And that certainly is something that our legislators should be doing. That's something that is one of the roles of government, is to protect the life and to protect the sovereignty of the individuals as well as the nation. I gotta close that. So, yeah, that abortion topic is It's an aggravating one. I've been having a lot of heated discussions, of course, and trying to keep people down, trying to keep people's emotions down while being able to have a conversation about this is certainly something that's difficult. But just because you were raped does not give you a justification to kill somebody else. Just because something was done wrong to you doesn't mean you get it in the life of another. Right? There's no other situation in our society where that is acceptable, right? If I punch you, you don't go to get to go kill somebody else. If I kill you, right, somebody else doesn't get to kill somebody else. There's just, it doesn't matter what atrocity is happening. You don't get to take it out on somebody else, and that includes when it comes to abortions. Before we get into the gun bill that was passed, or not passed, but put up a couple weeks ago, I want to talk about Patton Oswalt. So Patton Oswalt, if you guys remember the last time we were talking about him, was right around the who was that? James Gunn, if you guys remember that, the controversial Twitter storm where people were going after people's tweets from 8 years ago. Patton Oswalt had a great troll that from 8 years ago, from 6 years ago, I think it was. He wrote a bunch of two-part tweets, and the first part of the tweet was completely fine and okay, and he continued on into a second tweet, and the second tweet was worded just in a way that it seemed racist, sexist, and everything else. But when you put the two together, it was a flawless tweet, and it was succinct, and it was politically correct and everything else. But that got pulled up. That was pulled up by Mike Cernovich and spread around until the truth came out, and Mike, of course, had to put his tail between his legs and hide once again. But Patton Oswalt, a great comedian, great guy all around, but he is on the left. He is a liberal. He was caught the other day. This article is from the 25th. This is from The Blaze. Liberal comedian Patton Oswalt was in a Twitter fight with a Trump supporter, then decided to help him instead, and everything changed. So the comedian and actor Patton Oswalt found himself in a Twitter feud with a Trump supporter this week. But when he found out that the man had health issues, he decided to help him out and ended up raising more than $31,000 to pay for a complete stranger's medical bills. So on Thursday, a Trump supporter named Michael Beatty responded to a tweet that Oswalt had sent critical of Trump. "I realized why I was so happy you died in Blade Trinity," Beatty wrote. Oswalt snarkily replied, "Dude, I already know. Because one more second of you on screen and my heart would belong to Patton Oswalt," right? Always got the humor. I get this told to me at least twice a week by Trump supporters. It makes me smile and I'm grateful and blessed. During the exchange, he also called Oswalt a sawed-off little man. But then Oswalt decided to check on Beatty's profile and everything changed. The man who had tweeted at him turned out to be a Vietnam veteran who had spent 2 weeks in the hospital with sepsis and diabetic ketoacidosis. Hope I got that right. Medical terms suck. He had a GoFundMe fundraiser for his medical bills, but hadn't managed to raise very much money. That's when Oswalt decided to step in. 12 minutes later, after his initial response, Oswalt tweeted, "Oh man, this dude just attacked me on Twitter," and I joked back, but then I looked at his timeline and he's in a lot of trouble health-wise. I'd be pissed off too. He's been dealt some shitty cards. Let's deal him some good ones. Click and donate just like I'm about to. So Patton Oswalt, right, getting into a little bit of a feud, getting attacked, still shows that it's good to be compassionate. It's still good to come out and help people. What a fantastic man to do that. He personally donated $2,000 to Beatty's fundraiser. And the GoFundMe has raised more than $31,000 with the original goal of only $5,000. So thank you, Patton Oswalt, for being a stand-up guy. And your comedy still hits home for me. Maybe not all of your jokes hit me, but nonetheless, some of them do, and those that do, I'm thankful for them. So we'll go from that happy high point, and we'll move on to the more depressing side. The more depressing side, because we have to talk about Dianne Feinstein. There it is, Chris Murphy. So Senators Dianne Feinstein, Chris Murphy, and Rich Blumenthal introduced the measure on Wednesday. That is the assault weapons ban of 2019. It is a proposed update to the assault weapons ban of 2017. So this is from American Military News. While gun owners would be permitted to keep existing firearms and magazines, the bill would ban the sale, manufacture, transfer, and importation of 205 military-style weapons by name. The bill would also ban firearms that have a detachable ammunition magazine. So if you have anything that you could drop the magazine or drop the clip, as people say, nah, bro. You can't have that. Or one that has one or more military characteristics, including a pistol grip, a forward grip, a barrel shroud, a threaded barrel, or a folding or telescoping stock. So one of the, as somebody who works in a suppressor manufacturing job site, as somebody who manufactures suppressors for firearms, the way that you attach a suppressor, which does not add lethality to any firearm whatsoever, it makes it actually a little bit quieter, not so quiet like in the movies. The way that you attach a suppressor, which should be legal and actually helps conserve hearing, and it can actually help redirect the blast where it's not blasting you in the face when you're firing, is via a threaded barrel. You thread your suppressor on the end of the barrel, and there you go. And make sure that it doesn't pop off, and you're right as rain. So she wants to get rid of everything, anything and everything. A pistol grip, a forward grip. So a pistol grip is obviously where you're holding the trigger. A forward grip on the front to combat the recoil, right? So you're not blasting everywhere. A barrel shroud, which just helps cool it. A threaded barrel, so you can put on your suppressor, or a folding or telescoping stock. So if your stock folds over or if it stretches out, no go, bros. You can't have it. Additionally, the bill would ban magazines or other feeding devices that can hold more than 10 rounds. Yep, that's right, boys and girls. If you want to fight against a tyrannical government, you only got 10 rounds. The press release describes the devices as anything that would allow shooters to quickly fire many rounds without needing to reload. 10 rounds is not many, and I would argue 11 wouldn't be either. But of course, they want to set just some random arbitrary number, and so they set 10. According to the release, more than 2,200 firearms that are used for hunting, household defense, or recreational purposes, unless, of course, the household defense is an AR-15 with a telescopic, oh man, why am I not remembering it? Telescoping scope or stock, and with a forward grip and a barrel shroud and a threaded barrel, to where you're not just blasting out your ears when you're trying to protect your home. Those are not allowed. But they say that those would be exempt from the ban. So I'm not sure how they get to determine which way that goes. Of course, they do grandfather in anything that's been owned previously. So if you guys are a big gun advocate, go buy it now before the government gives up on the Second Amendment altogether. We do have different organizations that have been already placing lawsuits against the bump stock ban, and I'm sure that if this gets any ground, we will see many different corporations coming out and fighting against this, and that is the right thing. I think they need tighter background checks on assault rifles. I don't. But then again, anyone could get one illegally in one day. Absolutely right, NCAA. If you can get one on the black market, why would you want to make it harder for people to get it to be able to protect themselves? That's it. We need laser guns like Star Wars. I love it, Stefan. I love it. Your state went from 30 rounds to 10 rounds. Ooh. There's a big lawsuit that you need to be filing as well. There was something I was going to pull up. Oh, yeah. And I forgot his name. Shane. There we go. So when it comes to this bill, if Facebook would start loading this page for me. When it comes to this bill, there's actually something that Dianne Feinstein and many others are openly advocating against and actually violating 18 USC 413, I think it was. Let me pull it up, because I want to make sure that I get this bill right. But nonetheless, basically what the premise of this bill, or of that law is, of that code, is if you are openly advocating against someone's constitutional rights, which this would clearly be, then you're guilty of this and certainly worthy of not only being denounced, but also being criminally prosecuted, right? If you are conspiring against the constitutional rights of others, and I don't care where you sit at in America, we all should be equal. There shouldn't be a double standard. There shouldn't be a there shouldn't be a hierarchy of who is susceptible to what laws. Dianne Feinstein is guilty, and anyone who has endorsed this, and of course, the list of Democrats that are on board with this, I think, is very hypocritical, because even Chuck Schumer is on board with this. And Chuck Schumer has a Class 3 weapons permit. That means that he can basically shoot whatever it is that he wants to shoot. So he has fully automatic weapons. He has the guns that he will openly advocate to ban from the people. And I think it really does go back to that Animal Farm quote, and that is that all people are equal. Some are more equal than others. And certainly the Democrats feel as if they are more equal than others. Take away their armed security for a day. Let's see how defenseless they feel. Put them in the shoes of their constituents and see how secure and how safe they are as a person. Remove their ability to protect themselves and see how quickly it is that they would be forced to open up the laws in which they've enacted in order to remove your ability to protect your life, your liberty, and your pursuit of happiness. These people are grotesque. They are grotesque with the ways that they will enact a law to hurt you, to punish you, to deprive you of your natural rights, while they themselves have legislated that they are not a part of that community. This is why there have been many people that are advocating for a states convention to invoke the Article 5 in order to enact a new amendment in which all laws enacted by the legislative branch are also equally placed on the people enacting those laws. Going back to that, it was U.S. Code 18242. There we go. U.S. Code 18242 was the code which I was talking about earlier. It's a federal felony. Yes, it is a felony. And so I think we need to hold them accountable to that. But nonetheless, right, the idea that our government gets to remove our rights to be able to protect ourselves is so against the tenor of the Second Amendment. Because what is the purpose of the Second Amendment? So there was a litany of things there. The first one is to protect ourselves from enemies, both foreign and domestic. Right? So that means that if somebody wants to come and invade our lands, we are able to protect ourselves. If somebody is here on our lands and wants to come and invade and take over our state, take over our property, take over anything, we are there. We can do that as well. It is to protect ourselves from a tyrannical government, which will also be an enemy domestic, but nonetheless is there to protect us from the government. And if the government is there and able and capable of taking away our rights to our natural right of being able to defend ourselves, then certainly there's a huge conceptual error for those legislators, and they need to be held accountable. And of course, the last one is, of course, to protect your life, your liberty, and your pursuit of happiness. And that is the natural right there. That you have the ability to protect yourself with whatever means necessary and whatever is available to you. That doesn't mean you get to have other people say what is acceptable and what is not. You should be able to pick out what you think is acceptable for you to protect yourself, because no one else will protect you in the way that you would protect yourself. There's not a single police force out there that will be as quick to react to defend you as what you would do yourself. There's not a single military force out there, and not a single military member out there that will be able to protect you the way that you protect yourself, because you are the only person with yourself 24/7, and so it should be, the ownership is on you to be able to do that, not upon somebody else. And certainly, just like the police, when seconds matter, they're minutes away. So it's all about us being able to do ourselves. It's all about us being able to protect ourselves. And it's grotesque, and it is a felony for them to openly advocate against this. So I'm going to read you guys the code. If two or more persons conspire to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate any person in any state, territory, commonwealth, possession, or district in the free exercise, or enjoyment of any right or privilege secured to him by the Constitution or the laws of the United States, or because of having so exercised the same. So, yes, Dianne Feinstein and company, you guys are all guilty of violating 18 U.S.C. 241 and 242. get wrecked, go home, enjoy those chains. Of course not. Of course not. We would never be able to see them go and be locked up for advocating so openly against the Constitution, because the Constitution is not something that a lot of people care about whenever they just don't care about it, right? I know some of us here, I know we love the Constitution around here, and I thank you guys for loving it just the same. But we need to get back to the principle. We need to hold them accountable to the actual Constitution and the way that is written. And the longer we wait for it to come by, and the longer we wait for it to be imposed once again, the more upset that we'll be. So we need to take it upon ourselves, and we need to be electing people that actually care about the Constitution. And that almost became me, actually. Almost this weekend. I'll get into that story here in a second. But we need to take the ownership again. We are the people. We are the people. Take back what is ours, and that is the Constitution's constraints on the federal government. Bring that back. Get them back into the tiny hole that they were supposed to be in. Get them back into the limited government size that they were supposed to be, and stop letting them wiggle open those constraints and allow them to dictate how they're going to live our lives. Yeah, right? I'm lucky that I live in a very nice area, but if I didn't, I would sleep with my gun. I live in an okay area, and I sleep with my gun. My gun is always right there. I've had to pull it a couple times in order to check the house out at night. I know exactly where it is at all times. Everyone should be able to protect their family. Absolutely. But so story time. Friday night. Why didn't I come out here? So Friday night, my plan was we had an event down at a local Denny's. We were doing what's called the Rhino Hunt. So here in South Carolina, we have a legislature and our state representatives that are led by Republicans year in and year out, consistently led. But nonetheless, we see our taxes grow. We don't see a heartbeat bill passed. We don't see conservative values being passed. And so a lot of Republicans and Libertarians and RLC members, that's Republican Libertarian Caucus, come together and we talk about these things. And it was, I forgot the individual who runs this, but nonetheless, so we met up for this, and there was a good 200 people in this small little Denny's. It was a packed house. It was fantastic. And so we went around and we were discussing things, and we were learning things and figuring out the intricacies of everything. And I got approached by a member from the Young Americans for Liberty. If you guys haven't seen YAL, they are out there. They helped elect many different people, many representatives across this country in the last election. And they actually reached out to me. They want me to run. And that was a great idea. Me and my wife, we pondered that idea, and sadly right now is not the opportunity for me. So if you guys remember, right, we had Trey Gowdy step down. Trey Gowdy decided no more Congress for him, no more House. And you're messing up our schedules. I'm sorry about that. So Trey Gowdy is no longer, so he stepped down. And his replacement was William Timmons. Now, William Timmons was one of our state senators. So when William Timmons stepped into that spot, now we had an open seat there. We have now we just had the primaries for his replacement, and that was won by Dwight Loftus. So Dwight Loftus is now going to be facing a Democrat. And like what I said before, right, Republicans run and win notoriously here in the state. They control the majority of the House and the Senate year in and year out. So Dwight Loftus has a great opportunity for him to win. That means that coming up in this March, we're having a special election. That would have been my time to shine, right? And so that was what the idea was. And sadly, right now, with the big life changes that we're going through, with the kid on the way, and everything else, it just wasn't my time. And so we had to sadly turn that down. But that got me going. That got me all kinds of excited all weekend long. And we ended up staying too late on Friday night, so I apologize for not making it out on Friday for you guys. And then all day Saturday, we were talking with different members. We were talking with different talked with a couple of the current sitting members of our House and Senate here in South Carolina, or a couple members of the House, I apologize, and discussing that, getting the logistics down. And then on Sunday, got tied up with that, had some friends over, had a good time. In case you guys were wondering, yes, I was smoking. I smoked a big old butt, and it was absolutely amazing. It was so good. But so I apologize, guys, for not meeting up with you guys on Friday night or Sunday night. I promised you guys I'm going to be doing better. It's not. I hate missing it. I missed it. I'm sorry. So I will be better. I will do better. But nonetheless, I appreciate you guys for sticking by and coming in tonight. I'm going to open up the phone line. If there's something you guys want to call in and talk about, feel free to call in. Phone line is up there. The phone number is 802-671-5328. Feel free to call in if you guys got something you guys want to talk about from earlier in the show, or if you want to bring up something new, feel free to do so. It is up and available. I'm going to see if I can pull up. I think there's one other article that I can bring up for you guys. Oh. So I just found I may have nerve damage. Still on tank top pick. Nah, bro. I'm about to smoke some chicken. Ooh, smoking some chicken. That's a good time. So what you guys are going to be seeing from me in the future, we are going to be getting, I've got two local authors that we're going to be trying to get them on here. One of them did run for the seat that William Timmons now holds, right? Trey Gowdy's old seat. We're going to bring him on. We'll talk about what his plan is, what his ideas are, because he's got a different spin than I do, but nonetheless, he's got a pretty good idea about a lot of things, and I think that you guys would certainly find some value in that. And a little publicity for him will never hurt anyone. So we'll try to bring him on. We'll try to bring back Laird Minor. If you guys remember the lawyer that I brought on probably a good month and a half ago now. We'll try to bring Laird on when another big Supreme Court topic hits. We'll get our research done on that and really bring together some good, robust discussions so you guys can fall in love with him the way that I have, with his wise words of wisdom and his understanding of all that. We will continue. So like I said, I'm not going to be running for office this year, sadly. But I will be running in 2024. That's going to be coming up. I'll still hopefully be endorsed by Young Americans for Liberty, and we'll see some progression there. I'm probably running for the House in my state, and we'll progress our way up and get up to that federal level, like the end goal is, and that'll certainly be fruitful for all of us. So that'll be exciting, and that was the other thing. I'm running for vice chair here in Greenville County, South Carolina, for the Libertarian Party. So if I'm reaching you and you're in Greenville, or if you're in the area of South Carolina, of the upstate, if you're near us, feel free to drop me a line, send me a DM, let me know, and I will happily give you the details and you can come in. You got Trey Gowdy, right? Yeah, I'll happily give you the information. You guys can come down and you guys can talk with a bunch of libertarians. Whether you agree with liberty or not, you can come in. We'll have a nice discussion. We have some people that come in from all political walks of life, and it's all about just growing the idea of liberty and sharing our differences and growing in that way. So it's been fun. It's been interesting, and I can't wait to be able to provide more for the Libertarian Party down here in South Carolina. I remember there were so many discussions I was having today at work, and I'm trying to remember it. Sadly, right, this is the problem with working at a job site that doesn't allow you to have your phones. If you have a good discussion, you're like, I want to talk about that tonight, you don't have your phone to be able to record it and save it for later. But it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. It wasn't AOC. It wasn't Trump. I don't remember. You love the Carolinas? Carolinas are fantastic. That's why as soon as I got out of the military, I was like, I'm moving back to the Carolinas. And here we are in the upstate. Great place to live. Fantastic. People are awesome. views are gorgeous, and you're right smack dab in the middle of everything. So I can go to Atlanta, I can go to Nashville, I can go to Charlotte, North Carolina. I can go anywhere and everywhere. That's good. Savannah, Georgia is always rated as one of the top 10, top 5 even for St. Patty's Day. Charleston's always got the great look out on the ocean and a great time there. So it's a good place. And so if you guys have never been to the Carolinas, make sure you guys come down to South. Come down to the South. It's a good place. It's a good time every time. Trying to see. Struggling here. All right. Love the Carolinas. Oh, that was a troll bot. Gotcha. Couldn't call in. Really? Couldn't call in. That's weird. I got the phone right here waiting. Actually, I might be having to. I don't want to get annoying. I mean, you wouldn't be getting annoying, but I think I'm actually gonna have to call it quits for the night. I'm gonna have to. Yeah, I'm gonna have to call it quits and go take care of some stuff before I go to bed. I'm not trying to stay up late anymore, guys. I'm getting too old. If you guys know me at all, I'm 28 years old, and that's pushing 70. If I can go to bed at 8 o'clock, I'm a happy camper. So I got 10 minutes to get ready for bed. But nonetheless, I appreciate you guys for joining in tonight. Appreciate you all for sharing this out and for helping grow my platform and grow my voice. Whether you agree or disagree with everything, that's not an issue. I hope it's not an issue for you either. It's about hearing other ideas and growing together. So thank you guys all for joining in tonight. I am Mr. America, the Bearded Truth, Jason Lyon. I will see you guys tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern. I will be back on the normal schedule. So I hope you guys all have a great night. I'll see you guys then. I am Mr. America, the Bearded Truth, Jason Lyon. Have a good night.